The top 3 prospects in UFC: Khamzat Chimaev, Umar Nurmagomedov, and Shavkat Rakhmonov. Welcome, fight fans. MMA Station here is here to bring you another epic combat story. Let's go. Today we'll talk about the top 3 UFC prospects who will probably get the most prestigious belt in MMA very soon. There are lots of great fighters in the UFC at the moment. The new generation of mixed martial arts is shocking everybody, but only a few deserve the status of a future champion. We'll start with Khamzat Chimaev. Khamzat Chimaev is one of the most entertaining fighters in the UFC. He came as an undefeated prospect and started demolishing people while breaking records. However, he had a long and hard way before the UFC and was suffering a lot to earn the luxury of life he has now. Tough times create strong men, and this is how the Boars was made. He was born in a small village in Chechnya by the time when there was a war between Chechnya and Russia. He was raised in the middle of the war, and all he was watching around was pain and suffering. He started his wrestling career in Russia and was doing great. Soon after, his big brother moved to Sweden to provide a better life for his family. Khamzat followed him. That's how the Boars found Sweden, his second home. However, it wasn't easy for him to start a new life without knowing English and having a Sweden passport, which was not letting him participate in big competitions. Boars continued to wrestle in different gyms and in 2016 finally managed to sign in for a national freestyle wrestling competition where he dominated everybody, winning the gold. Then he did it again in 2017, but that wasn't enough, so he moved up in the weight division to completely dominate in the same fashion. Make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a moment of the action. Soon after, a moment in his life changed everything. Accidentally, he saw Conor McGregor versus Jose Aldo fight on TV. He felt that there was something special inside him, that he could also be at the top of that world. He saw people making millions of dollars in the UFC and wanted the same for himself and his family. He didn't wait for a second, and he started his MMA journey by joining the All-Star Training Center in Stockholm. He started as an amateur MMA fighter and earned 3 finishes. After having 2 professional victories in MMA, he managed to sign with a known and big MMA promotion organization called Brave FC. With a record of 2-0-0, he made his Brave debut against an undefeated fighter with 5 victories, Marco Kisk. Kisk had all 5 victories via finishers and was the favorite in this bout. However, Chimaev destroyed him in the very first round via TKO. In less than a year, he earned 4 professional victories in Brave FC, defeating 3 undefeated fighters, including Ikram Aliskerkov, who is a multiple times world and European Sambo champion. He made his UFC debut in 2020 and won 2 fights in under 10 days, which is still a record. Right now, he's an undefeated UFC fighter with a record of 12 victories and no losses. He fights in 2 different weight categories and plans to be the champion in 3 different weights: welterweight, middleweight, and light heavyweight. Maybe it sounds impossible, but looking at his reach, skills, and also, according to one of the best light heavyweights of all time, Alexander Gustafsson, there is a big chance to see Khamzat with these 3 belts. Hard times create strong men, and here is the Boars, born in war and poverty, fully focused to take over the MMA world. He already suffered a lot, so he's ready to shine and break all the records. The next fighter we'll be talking about is Umar Nurmagomedov. Mini Khabib, next Khabib, small Khabib. Some people even call him the better version of Khabib. No matter what we call him, we have a hell of a fighter raising up at a crazy pace. The undefeated fighter from Makhachkala, Dagestan is trained by the legendary Khabib Nurmagomedov and his father Abdulmanap. His wrestling and grappling skills are the same or better than the Khabib's. It's easy to see the similarities, but what makes him better is his unique striking technique. He made his debut on the high stage of the MMA League in Russia. It was in 2016 in Fight Night Global, where he earned 5 victories and defeated lots of good fighters. Another big stage for him was PFL, where he earned 2 victories. First, he defeated the undefeated before Sadaykub Kakramanov, who is currently one of the top UFC contenders. The second victory was against a very experienced Brazilian fighter, Sidmar Honorio, in 2019. Before signing with UFC, he also won the Gold of Guerrilla Fighting Champions against the undefeated Argentinian fighter Brian Gonzalez. Even in the UFC, Umar couldn't escape from fighting against Russians. His debut was against a very experienced former M1 global fighter, Sergey Morozov. Umar easily defeated Sergey in the second round via submission rear naked choke and started shaking the division. His second fight was against a veteran of the UFC, Brian Keller, a fighter who had 13 UFC fights and had earned victories in most of them. However, Umar still made it look easy when he served a first-round submission loss to Brian. Afterwards, he was very hard for Umar's manager Ali to find fights for him. After Keller, Umar fought Nate Maness and won by unanimous decision. His last victory against Raoni Barcelos was one of the best. Everyone knew that Barcelos was one of the most dangerous fighters outside of the top 15 who had serious power. Even though he had 2 losses in the UFC, nobody managed to dominate him. However, Umar did something very unexpected in this fight. He proved that he's not only an elite wrestler, but also an elite striker. By the end of the first round, Umar served the first ever KO loss to the Brazilian with a left hook. With that performance, he was already a mission impossible for UFC staff to find a fight for him. Everyone was refusing to fight him. Finally, only one fighter accepted the challenge, and his name was Corey Sandhagen. The fight is expected in August. Corey is currently the number 4 ranked contender and on 2 winning streaks after demolishing dangerous fighters like Song Yadong and Marlon Vera. He has 3 losses in the UFC, but only against the bests: Aljamain Sterling, TJ Dillashaw, and Peter Yan. His fight with Yan was very interesting, and many think that he defeated TJ Dillashaw. This is going to be a big test for Umar. If he wins, he will be one of the next title challengers. Aljamain Sterling is fighting with O'Malley and plans to go to the featherweight division after the fight. Rumors are saying Cejudo will fight Marlon Vera while Marib Dalishvili is number 1 ranked fighter in the division. So who knows? We might see Mera versus Umar fight for the vacated title. Make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a moment of the action. And finally, we're going back to the welterweight division and we'll talk about another undefeated prospect, Shavkat Rakhmonov. The pride of Kazakhstan has been in love with fighting from his early childhood. He says, as a kid, I was fighting on the streets for fun. At an early age, he started professionally with Sambo and was a big fan of UFC and Pride. He loved watching Fedor, Mirko, Krokop, and decided to be as successful as his favorite fighters. He started competing as an amateur and won almost everything that he could win. As an amateur, he has 11 victories and 2 defeats. Both of his defeats as an amateur are against the same opponent, Gadzimurad Nurmagomedov, who is currently a top ACA athlete. As a professional, he has never suffered a defeat and has 17 victories, all of them via finishes. He made his professional debut in M1 Global, which was considered to be one of the best promotions in his region. After defeating Georgian fighter Levan Solodovnik, he earned his title shot in M1 Global. By that time, he already had 10 victories and was about to face Daniil Prikaza for the vacated title of M1 Global. Shavkat easily defeated him in 2 rounds, making no mistakes and dominating every aspect of the fight. Having an M1 Global belt was not enough for him to get to the UFC ticket, so he defended it successfully against Brazilian fighter Thiago Varejov. The Brazilian was very experienced since his record included more than 30 fights and had victories in 28 of them. However, Shavkat still made it look easy when he earned a TKO victory in the first round. His ticket for UFC was secured. In his first ever UFC fight, Shavkat faced a very experienced fighter, Cowboy Oliveira. Like many times in the past, Shavkat made it look easy, a first round submission victory. UFC kept challenging him and arranged another very tough opponent, Michael Prozers. Michael had 10 victories in the UFC and was on an 8 winning streak. This experience was enough for the Brazilian to survive against Shavkat for 1 round, but get finished in the second. In the third fight, UFC fans had the chance to witness how great Shavkat's striking was when he destroyed Carlston Harris in the stand-up game. Firstly, Shavkat damaged Carlston Harris with a spinning body kick. After that, when Harris had a feat of that body kick, Shavkat threw a spinning hook kick, dropped him, and finished with a brutal ground pound. In the last 2 fights, Shavkat shocked the world. He defeated Neil Magny, an amazing wrestler and submission specialist, and then he fought Geoff Neal, which answered lots of questions about his toughness. How good is Shavkat's cardio? His chin, his heart. Everyone knew that Shavkat was a warrior, but no one had an idea how he would manage after some hard punches. Shavkat's chin and heart were truly tested by Neil, one of the heaviest punchers in the division. They fought for 3 rounds and exchanged lots of bombs. Shavkat never took a step back and kept going forward even though he was hurt badly. He showed the heart of a lion and great conditioning. In the last round, he found a way to finish and remained with a 100% finishing rate. Neil was choked with a standing rear naked choke, which is one of the most rarest submissions in MMA. What's next for Shavkat? Lots of people want to see him fighting against another undefeated prospect, Khamzat Chimaev. None of the fighters is against it, but it looks like the UFC has different plans. Shavkat asked for the title as soon as possible, but he might fight with Covington or Usman before that. However, it's a fact that he is one of the next title challengers, and in the near future we might see these 2 undefeated monsters, Khamzat Chimaev and Shavkat Rakhmonov, in a title fight for the welterweight division. That wraps up another fight story with MMA Station. Make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a moment of the action. Thanks for joining us on this incredible ride. Until next time, stay hungry, stay passionate, and keep supporting the world of combat sports.